Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Well Self Podcast. I'm Nicole.
I'm Coach.
And we are here today with our beautiful, adorable cousin, Amanda. I'm so excited to have you for this episode.
Hello, everybody. I'm Amanda.
Welcome, Amanda, to the conversation. So today we're going to be talking about something that can be something that is not an easy, actually, topic for, I think, a lot of people to talk about. And it is dealing with a difficult diagnosis. And we feel very strongly about, first of all, anyone who is going through a challenging time, dealing with an unexpected diagnosis. Our hearts and our minds and our thoughts are with you. And we wanted to touch on this topic because there's a belief that the way that you handle something can really make a difference in how you progress through whatever journey you're experiencing. And we asked Amanda to have this conversation with us, and you'll understand why as we go through the conversation. But I really wanted to just take a moment and prepare anyone who is listening to this conversation or about to listen to this conversation. If you are going through a challenging time, we are there for you. We want to know that we have the support and we send our positive thoughts and energy towards you before we embark on this. And we don't ever want anyone to think that we're saying that you should go through your challenges in a particular way. Well, we want to offer you the space to consider the way that we navigate challenging circumstances can really impact the circumstances that we are experiencing. So we're dealing with a couple of different wellness dimensions here today. Emotional wellness, definitely. Relationship wellness, as we talk about how we handle communicating about certain things, and also our physical wellness as well. So Amanda, I want to jump right into the conversation and disclose. Well, I'm going to actually let you disclose what you experienced, but you experienced a difficult diagnosis a few years back. Could you walk us through what you experienced and what you were faced with?
So I've been diagnosed with breast cancer twice. So the first time was around about 18 years ago. And then the second time was about 3 years ago now, roughly. The first time I was diagnosed, I was only 28. And I started treatment at 29. So that was so unexpected. You know, you're young, you don't fall into the usual category of what people expect for a woman that's been diagnosed with breast cancer. And initially I was misdiagnosed too.
I don't know if I realized that.
Yeah. So initially they called me in and said, no, I had all the biopsies done, and they said, oh, no. So before the biopsies, they were saying, oh, no, your age, you're too young. It's probably just this, that, or the other. There's lots of options it could be, but we'll do some biopsies just to find out exactly what it is. But at this point, they ruled cancer out completely. So I had the biopsies done. I went on holiday. I came back, went back to see them to get the results. And because they told me it wasn't a cancer, it was just, I don't know, it's women's issues, I thought it wasn't serious. And I went to my appointment on my own to get these results. And then when I was there, they was like, oh, sorry, it is cancer. So I was just like, what? Okay. And I was sitting there on my own because they told me it just was not. Everything was going against a cancer diagnosis. So, yeah, that wasn't ideal. That didn't start off well at all.
So if there were any suspicions for you, you would have brought someone to be with you, some type of
Yeah.
support.
Yeah, I just thought I was going to a routine appointment. Oh, this is that, and we'll just do that, and that's fine. See you later. Bye. That's what I was expecting. But then to sit there and be told, well, this is what's happened, actually. How do you feel about that? And I'm like, what do you mean, how do I feel about that? I wasn't prepared for this. And I think because of that, I was in shock. They told me, no, it's not that. Now all of a sudden it is that. And not just that, it was stage 3 already.
Mm.
And it was an aggressive cancer. So it was like, ugh, what does that even mean? What are you actually saying to me here? This is not early stages. Stage 4 is terminal or incurable, however you want to describe it. So I was just there like, wow, okay. And then they took me into another room away from the consultant. They asked me, do you have any questions? So I probably got about 6 million questions if I'd had any idea that this was about to happen. And then they literally took me to another room with a breast care nurse, and she was like, oh, I'm really sorry. I know this is not what you wanted to hear, blah, 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 blah. And immediately I just got annoyed. I felt irritated. Why are you talking to me like that? I'm the same person that walked in before you gave me that diagnosis. You wasn't talking to me like that then. Why are you talking to me like that now? And she was like, oh, I'm really sorry. And I was like, please don't do that. Can you just tell me facts, please? Tell me what I need to know. Just explain this, 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 and this. And she explained it. And she kept saying to me, Amanda, do you understand what I'm saying to you? I was like, yes, I understand very clearly what you're saying to me. She said, well, can you repeat it back to me then? And I did. I repeated it back. And she's like, okay, do you need to sit here for a while? Or I was like, well, not really. It was like she was expecting me to break down. And because I didn't break down, they assumed that I didn't understand what was happening, or I was in denial, or something along those lines. But that just isn't my character. It wasn't that I didn't understand. Anyway, so I just asked them to give me the information that I could take away, and they told me what was going to happen next in terms of like other appointments, and I went home.
Before before the diagnosis, and this is just a little bit about breast cancer, awareness, was there
Yeah.
anything that led you to going in? Were you having certain feelings, certain discomfort, or was it just your annual?
No, I was only 20 in my 20s. You don't have an annual breast anything at that age. You don't start having annual things till you're in your 50s.
Mm.
So I'd lost a little bit of weight, and I noticed, oh, there's a bit of a lump here. It feels a bit strange. Maybe I should get that checked out. But I was on my cycle at that point. So, they tell you not to do that then. So I waited until it had finished, and then I was like, oh, no, this is still definitely here. So I went to see my GP, and then they referred me on.
Got it.
But there was no reason to suspect a cancer. I didn't feel ill. I wasn't, and I was just normal, just a little lump. That was that. That was it.
So it's safe to say that this was, I mean, as you already said, this was not expected. You sitting there
Mm-mm.
in the appointment being in shock, it doesn't seem like they really understood that someone could also they expect you to break down, but it didn't seem like
Yeah.
they were adequately prepared for, it sounded like you were stunned or shocked.
Yeah. They wasn't prepared for a different reaction, I guess, to what they expected.
So that was a surprise for them. As you went through it the first time, um, what were some of the surprises for you? What were the things that came up that you were completely blindsided or just did not expect as you were going through? I mean, everything was new, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But what would you could you back and say that's a little surprising that it happened that way?
Yes. So the consultant that I saw was he wasn't I tried to say it in the nicest way possible. He wasn't a people person. He was very arrogant.
Mm.
He was brushing me off. And when we looked at, for example, the way it had been categorized, my age, so many different indicators were saying that there is a possibility that this is something hereditary. This has come from a gene. So I was saying to him, look, can I get this testing done? I qualify. You only have to qualify under 3 points. I qualified on every single point there was. That was about 8. So I was way in the brackets that this test needed to be done. And he was like, no, why do you need that for? No, I don't think that's necessary. And it took for me to say, hold on a minute. I'm requesting this and I want this. And if it wasn't for me being confident in being able to speak to him and insisting that I had this test, he would have just not given it to me. And then once I'd had that test, when the results came back, I said to him, do you see, you refused this test and it's come back positive. I do have BRCA gene. That is really important information. He was like, all right, you win.
Oh,
I was like, what? What did you just say to me? He said, you win. I said, what do you mean I win? What? What? And he was like, he just didn't see. And it took for me to really strip him down. I don't care if you're a surgeon. I don't care if you've been doing this for a million years. What do you mean I win? This wasn't an argument. This is to equip me with information that I needed to make decisions moving forward, but also for my family. That is hereditary. That means my sisters, my parents, well, one of my parents for sure, my siblings, even my own children. I was like, I'm shocked to my core.
that is so angering and frustrating because there's so much in this process. And when you're dealing with your health and a difficult diagnosis, something you did not expect, there's so much that cannot be controlled. But what we can control is how we treat each other, especially as a medical professional
Yes.
dealing, with a client who is dealing with a tough time out of control of their body. They can be kind. And I'm really sorry and disappointed that you were spoken to that way.
And it took for me to be very insistent and no, I have questions. It is your job to answer my questions. It took for me to be so assertive. And once he realized, oh, is this how she's handling it? He changed. His whole attitude changed. And I felt really sad, not for myself, but for other women that can't do that for themselves. A lot of women would have been sitting there broken after hearing that. They've got this gene and now it could have been passed to their kids and this and that. That's not something light. That was, in fact, I didn't even think about that. That is also another difficult diagnosis that I had. But he just was so flippant about it. And if that was, like I said, a woman that couldn't, speak up for herself or whatever, or was broken or blah, blah, she'd have left that office in a worse position as she went in. And even without even having the results and never knowing, so that she can't deal with herself in the future. She'll have the wrong treatment. She wouldn't have the screening that she needed. And then her kids as well. So yeah, that was disappointing.
Can you talk about the mental side of it and any other surprises that came up, but also the mental side of what you experienced that first time?
Um, I I tried to stay away from opinions when I spoke to the medical staff, they were very they were very easy to give you factual, the facts of things. And I found that helped me just sticking to facts rather than, oh, I'm so sorry, Amanda. Because that stuff just made me feel like they're almost giving you a death sentence, or that they're like, oh no, you're going to die now. This is really terrible, Oh, I'm so sorry. And that just wasn't helpful for me at all. That I needed them to deal with me in a way that was, number one, positive, that you wasn't predicting what was going to happen, and that we was just going to work off the truth of what was happening. And that made it easier for me to deal with. Just being factual with me. Don't flour nothing, don't sugarcoat nothing. Give me all the information that I need to make my decisions moving forward. I don't know that I struggled with the medical profession as much as I did friends and family. The medical profession understand what's going on. They know, they know what this means. But when you have to now tell your family or your friends, that was where the mental struggle was. How do you say, like, your friend calls you, oh, hi, Mance, how are you? Oh, I just been diagnosed with cancer. That's mad. You could,
I understand. Wow.
it's like, what? And you go home and, yeah, you're trying to tell your husband, I've just come home from the hospital, because now remember, we was in the position where we were told it wasn't a cancer. It was nothing serious. So I'm trying to tell him, and he's going there and he's doing this and he's picking up this clothes and he's doing this washing, and our little son, who was only under 2 at the time, he's up and down, and I'm trying to tell you something super serious here, but where we just wasn't prepared for it. It was so difficult to tell my family. So initially I just blurted it out to my husband. I was like, listen, I've been diagnosed with cancer. And he was like, what? Because that's not what we was expecting. And then to tell my parents, oh my gosh, and my sisters, I phoned my parents first, because I felt like this has to be, I don't know if telling people in person is the right thing or not, but I needed to manage my own emotions as well as other people's emotions. So I just needed to do it on the phone. I didn't want to be sitting there having to watch people's reactions. And, I felt like it was damage limiting by doing it on the phone. So anyway, I called my parents. And my parents were, especially my mum, because my mum's the worrier out of the two, they were so calm and so like, but like, because how do you feel? I said, Mum, is Dad there with you? Can you put me on loudspeaker? Both of you, I need to tell you something. And they're like, oh yeah, what you doing? And I was like, oh my gosh. Everyone's like, all right, lads. It is. So sweet. What'd you say? Yeah. Well, actually. So, after I told them, I don't know what I expected, but the response that I got was they were so calm, so cool, and so collected. And that was really helpful for me. But in the process of telling them, my youngest sister overheard the phone call, and she only heard what they were saying. And then I could hear her screaming. She lost it. She was like, my sister's dying. My sister's got cancer. She was just going mad. She was running around the house. She was screaming. Her friend was at the house and she's saying to her friend, my sister's got cancer. I could just hear her screaming. And I said to my mum and dad, put her on the phone. Let me speak to her. She won't come to the phone. She wouldn't speak to me. She was just screaming. And even when I called back later to speak to her, she wouldn't come on the phone to me. And then this went on for days. She wouldn't speak to me. She just thought, the worst. And it took, actually, when I turned up at the house, I was going to see my parents, and I was just going to the house, and I saw her walking down the road, and she saw me, and she just like froze, and it's like she wanted to run away. But then she looked at me and she said, but you look the same. And I laughed like, like, what was you expecting to see? But then I guess no one's dealt with this before. You don't know what to expect. You don't know what you're going to see. So as soon as she saw me, she was like, oh, I was like, yeah, oh, well, I'm like, what was this about? And she calmed down, straight away she was calm. And for my other sister, she's like in between us, she's closer to my age. Her response was, okay, okay. She listened to what I was saying, she took it on, but she didn't ask any questions. And actually, that went on through most of my treatment, that she didn't ask me questions because she felt like she didn't want to upset me, or I might feel uncomfortable talking about it. But actually, ask me, because otherwise you're making up a story in your head that isn't true, that is what maybe you expect to be happening, that may not be the truth. So anyway, I found that really hard to tell other people. So when I was initially diagnosed, it was in like a June, I think, in June. And my birthday's in July, the beginning of July. And they said they started me on chemo pretty quick. The treatment plan was reversed because it was quite aggressive. They wanted to do the chemo first so they could see if the tumour would react to chemo or if they're just going to skip it because it wasn't reacting. So they started me on this chemo, and I actually had this big party planned at my house because it was my 30th birthday. And so I had chemo, like, let's say Monday, Tuesday was the party. So everyone came to our house. I just had chemo the day before. Nobody knew. Like, my parents knew, some of my sisters knew. My friends didn't really know because it happened so quickly. And then there is everyone at the party. Hi, Amanda, how are you? What did you get up to yesterday? Well, actually, I started chemo yesterday. It just wasn't, how do you can't just burst that out in the middle of your party. It was just so crazy the way it happened. So it literally it took quite a while for me to tell people, just because of picking the right time, and it's just awkward. And some of the people that lived around me, I didn't even tell them, like my neighbours and what have you. And my next door neighbour, I can't remember, I ended up telling them. And they have a daughter that's my similar age to me. And I remember she didn't know for ages. And then when she did know, the reason I knew that she knew was because she saw me outside. She's just like, hello, Amanda. How are you? I was like, ugh. This head thing, like this, the sympathy, or the, I don't know what, like,
Pity
you
boy.
poor thing.
The pity boy.
Yeah, the pity. That's it, the pity. Like, oh, you poor thing. I was like, really? Because last time you saw me, you didn't do that. I was the same person, That I found really difficult to deal with. People that went into pity mode. This isn't a pity party. We are getting on with life. I'm not falling apart. Yes, I'm unwell, but I am not, let's just get on with life, shall we? Let's just be normal. So that was difficult to deal with. Not even my own emotions, just how other people responded to it. I remember there was one occasion where my husband couldn't come with me to have chemo. So my mum said she was going to take me. And I was a bit reluctant, but I was like, okay, come on, let's go. So going into the chemo suite is like nothing you could imagine if you've never been in there. You've got people that are sitting at the front. They're well, when I say well, they are physically well, that they can sit in a chair. They're connected to the drips. You might be sitting there for hours while the chemo is going into your body. Then behind you, you might have people that are in wheelchairs, so they're not as mobile. And then right at the back, you have people that are in beds where they're really ill and they lay down during their treatment, or they're actually inpatients. So every now and again, you'll hear machines going off where people are having a bad reaction to their chemo, or they're unresponsive or something. So while this is going on and my mum's there, she's like, she's like, even seeing me with this cold cap on my head and all the drips and the drain and and she's just like, she's not coping with this, which then is making me feel like, oh, I have to deal with her emotions as well as my emotions. The person just a few seats up is having an allergic reaction and everyone's running and the nurses are trying to deal with it, and my mum's like, oh my goodness. So it's like, so my mum, go get yourself a coffee. And then from that moment, I was like, no, I have to excuse all my friends and family from having to go through this. It's just too much, and I don't want to deal with their stuff. I might sound selfish, but I don't want to deal with their stuff as well as my own.
I don't think it's selfish at
So,
all. I don't think it's selfish at all.
yeah,
I think that you did a lot of navigating other people's emotions during that time, um, and not wanting to stress other people out with what you were experiencing. Um, and it wasn't just for their protection, it definitely was for your own protection and your own peace. Don't you think, John?
Of course, most definitely. Um, I'm just proud of you how you navigated through this year. Um, without going anything deeper, it's like I respect what you're saying. It's the pity part. It hurts me more than anything else. You know, this is happening. We're facing it, we're dealing with it, and we're gonna find a way to get ourselves out of it. And that's the way I was brought up as well. And but
yeah.
since this was the treatment, oh my God, I've been ready to choke someone. The way they talked to you that day, and and it's you're right. Just I could imagine y'all reaction or your reaction going in there, like you say, thinking it's just a simple thing. We're gonna give me a pill here or a little advice here and adjust my diet here or something, and then come up with a diagnosis. But wow, I'm you're my hero. That's all I can tell you.
I think the hardest of all was making the decision, are we telling our children? They were very young. Kyle was only 2, not even 2 yet. And maybe he was about 2. And then we had foster kids and my stepkids as well. So it was like, they're all young. How do you tell them? Like, the oldest was maybe 11 at the time. And, you don't want to scare them. But I was talking about it very openly. So we needed to have that conversation with them. So I decided that the way I was going to explain it to them was that I would talk about the symptoms. So, for example, if I wasn't, so first of all, we had a proper sit down to tell them about it. I was like, no jokes. Come and sit down. We're not joking about. I've got something serious to tell you. And I was like, I've been diagnosed. And I was like, oh, was that it? So, oh, okay, well, that went well. That was easy. And like, nobody really, there was no tears. There was nothing. They had questions. And I think the way I responded to the questions gave them a lot of comfort or made them feel, oh, this is actually going to be all right. It's not a big thing. I looked well. I was okay. So, I'd be saying, okay, sometimes I don't feel well. I have a headache or I feel sick. I feel nauseous. So I just described symptoms to them and they understood that. So if there was times when I'm being quiet, it's because maybe I've got a headache or my body hurts or, that's just how I dealt with that with the kids. They were actually the easiest, which was amazing. They were just the easiest to deal with.
They are amazing. Kids are amazing.
They were so amazing.
Kids are amazing. We talked a
Yeah.
lot about the first time. How did you process the second time?
Okay, so before the second diagnosis, if anybody had asked me, in fact, I'd said it many times, my worst nightmare would be to be diagnosed again and have to go through chemotherapy specifically again. So when I found another lump, I was like, oh, really? This is not cool. And both times it was me that found the lumps, even though the second time I found the tumour, even though I was having screening by then. But, it can grow at such fast rates, especially when it's aggressive. It wouldn't be on your scan. And then by the next one, there you got multiple tumours. So anyway, I found it the second time as well. I went in and I just knew that it was. I didn't at any point think, no, it's not. I just knew that it was. So this time was very different. I was okay I can't even remember if I went by myself. I don't even remember anymore. But that diagnosis, I came away like, I literally don't have time for this. I don't want to do this. This is an inconvenience. I've got things that I want to do, but all right, let's do it and let's hurry up. So I'm just fed up with this rubbish. So the second time round,
I remember.
I was annoyed.
Yes, you were not happy.
I was not happy.
That's just kind of the
I
way
was
she want to handle it. We're here to support you anything you need to be supported. I understand. You were annoyed. You were.
I was annoyed. I was irritated. Like, really? Again?
Ticked, angry, pissed,
Ugh.
all of those.
I was like, I just don't have time for this. I've got things to do. And I know this is going to be another, at least a year out again. I don't have time for this rubbish. So, but saying that, I was much more mentally prepared. Well, I thought I was more mentally prepared. But because there was such a big time frame between the first time and the second time, the treatments were different. The system was different. And because I'd had one set of drugs previously, I couldn't have it again because it damages your heart and what have you. So I was I was ready for this, and like, nah, that's not happened. And then there was lockdown involved too. So yeah, it was, lockdown happened. I was diagnosed before lockdown, I think. And yes, because by the time lockdown happens here in the UK, they told me that I had to be completely isolated, stay in my house. They even told me, don't open the windows, don't go in your garden. I was like, people, come on now. Let's be serious for a minute. Like, come on. And so every time I was going to the hospital, there's all these extra tests that, you know, there was just a lot extra going on with the with COVID. But it was, the first time round was more difficult mentally. The second time round was more difficult physically. The drugs were, I'd lost a lot of weight just before I started chemo. And where we weren't, when they were trying to reduce the amount of times you're in the hospital, we'd go there for the blood test, but then you'd have your results over the phone. They'd call you, make sure all your levels were okay. And then the plan would be you come in to have your chemo. So because I wasn't having in between appointments, I wasn't being weighed. And between two, so what, like the first time they had weighed me and the next time, no, I think I was about 3 cycles in or something. The chemo was making me so ill. And I was like, what is actually happening? This is not usual for me. And my levels weren't coming back up ready for the next chemo. So it kept getting delayed. And they were saying, oh, we'll just wait another week, see how you are, do the blood test again. And I'm like, what, we're just going to keep on doing this for weeks on end? No, something's not right. And they were like, no, this is usual, this is normal. I'm saying it may be normal for other people, but this is not normal for me. So it took for me to investigate, and it took for me to literally, I put on my army print trousers, my camo trousers. I said, I'm going to the hospital. This is war. I don't even have an appointment, but I'm going there. Someone is going to see me and I'm not leaving until this is sorted out. But anyway, when I got there, all I can say, just by the grace of God, he knew that I was ready for a fight. And when I got there, because someone was like, oh, hi, Amanda, come to my office. And I was like, oh, okay. But anyway, so, you know, diffused it immediately because I was ready to argue and fight, because that's what I'd had to do before. Anyway, so long story short, I was being overdosed with the amount of chemo they was giving me. So one of the drugs, I was being given double what I should have been. And the other drug, I was getting about 20% more.
Wow.
So yeah, that's why I wasn't recovering. So it was so much harder on my body. My body was tired. I'd had so many extra side effects that I shouldn't have been having, or I should have been having, but not as bad. So then that did cause a bit of, it didn't affect my mental health as in it made me feel lower, no, but it did make me feel annoyed that because of the way you've managed me or not managed me, I now have more symptoms to deal with that I didn't have to deal with. If my weight had been checked, something as basic as that, then I wouldn't be here now with this situation. So by the time I'd finished chemo, I was so unwell that I couldn't even have the surgery that I was supposed to have because my body just wasn't well enough to cope with it. So I had to have like an interim surgery to deal with what was going on there and then. And then after that, I got put on a waiting list because now it's not seen as treatment for the cancer. It's now seen as a preventative, or a, because I have the BRCA1 gene, it's seen as like an extra surgery as such. So something that I should have had immediately, I had to wait now another nearly 2 years to have. And that was difficult too. The waiting and waiting and waiting to have this, just have this thing put behind me. But during the treatment, I just made sure that I didn't allow the things that happened the last time to happen again. So I made sure, like when you're having your treatment, they teach you to monitor when you feel the most fatigue so that you can plan your days around that. So maybe you feel best in the morning, do all your important things in the morning so that in the afternoon you can rest, blah, blah, blah. I was like, no, that's not going to work for me. Sorry. I need to have things in my diary that I look forward to. If it means tomorrow I'm going out for the day with my friends and the day after I'm smashed and got to stay in bed all day, fine, that's what it's got to be. Because then my mind is well and I feel good and I'm tired for a good reason, and it kept up my spirits, kept me feeling good still. So even though we were in the middle of a pandemic, I'm not going to lie, and I'm not suggesting anybody does this. I did do things they told me not to do. I did go into places I should have been in because there was too many people there. But I tried to be sensible, stay to the back wavy, but I just needed to still live. Like, I just couldn't have cancer becoming and consuming my whole entire life, because that's what happens if you don't do that. You just go from appointment to appointment to appointment. So yeah, I just decided, no, I'm taking control.
So the two things that I'm hearing so far as like little tidbits. First, advocating for yourself
Yes,
with your medical professionals,
absolutely.
how important that is.
And don't just take their word for everything. Oh, it's fine. Well, no, I don't feel fine. You need to check that.
Yeah, and checking that, and then you also did a lot of your own research. It sounds like.
Yeah. Yeah, when they wasn't like, also where I've had chemo before, I was able to understand this is not the norm for me. I understand that other people may feel like this, but this is not what happens for me. This is not normal for me. So I was able to not necessarily do research as in finding another drug or anything like that, but just looking into why could this be happening. I spoke to different people in the hospital that were part of the cancer team, but not my consultants. And then I ended up putting two and two together, realizing, oh, here's the problem.
So the other thing that I'm hearing, not just that you need to advocate for yourself, but you also need to consider your own physical needs, emotional needs, social needs as you're going through this, and allow it to work for you, right?
Yeah. 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 So they could give you advice. They can tell you, other people found this helpful, blah, 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 blah. But if that's not helpful for you, you need to find something else that is helpful. If I'd have followed the best advice that they had for me, I'd been in my house miserable, just going from one appointment to the other, tired, laying down. That was not going to help me at all. Stay positive, not at all. So I had to work out what was important for me, what energized me, what gave me enjoyment, what do I want to fill my days with. It certainly ain't clothes washing, so I'm not going to get up in the morning to do that. I'm going to be getting up to go out with my friends, go out with my family, go and enjoy myself. So that's what I did.
So that's one of the things you found helpful, keeping busy, doing things, being positive. What else did you find helpful with either time?
Not telling myself stories. So you might have a little ache or a little pain, or I don't know, for example, don't now allow your mind to start telling you, oh, there's another tumor, or no, go and get it checked out. Here, just work on facts, not this may happen or that may happen, or this could be, that just was not helpful in any way, shape or form for me. So I was very strict about what I would read. I didn't go online and start doing all this random reading. People would send me all this nonsense about, oh, don't drink from plastic, or don't do this, or don't do that. Okay, I'm not saying that's nonsense, but a lot of things people sent me about cancer.
Unsolicited.
Yeah, don't send me that stuff. Don't send me anything at all. And then the ones that, all right, their first time, I allow you. But I didn't read it. I just didn't get into anything like that, because it just sends you off on this wild goose chase. And now you've got to go and live on some mountain where there's never been any spraying of anything, or any no humans have been in there in the last, I don't know, 50 years, so everything's pure again. It just gets too much. It just gets out of hand. I also found it really helpful for other people to ask me questions, so that I could let them know where I am, what was happening, rather than them feeling like they had to be on eggshells around me, or they couldn't talk about normal things, or they have to keep asking me, oh, how are you today? No, just talk to me like normal, just be normal. That really helped. Yes, be aware that I might have to wear 10 layers when I'm outside, because all of a sudden I'm freezing. But just, handle me like normal. If I need help, let me tell you I need help. If I need to go home, let me say, yes, I need to go home now. This is enough for me. Not, oh, should we take you home now? Are you okay? Like, come on, guys. You know me better than that. When I'm ready, I'll let you know. So, yeah, people got in the swing of it after a while. I was like, oh, here goes Amanda, let's go. They were all right after a while. So, yeah.
You're not that type of person. You're a very upbeat person. You're an outgoing person. You are you are and to deal with this here is one thing, but to deal with people want to call to you, I could see you throwing a chair. you know, and I had a couple of questions for you, but we was pretty much talked about most of this here stuff. But how do you feel now on the other side of these?
Since all my treatment is finished, it's been about a year now since my last surgery that I had. Yes, about a year. I was asked to volunteer for a group. They have women that have been through breast cancer, and they like to have volunteers there that have been through it, so they can ask you questions. They can see about, there is a life after cancer. And until I went onto one of those groups, I don't feel like I hadn't moved on, and I hadn't. So the course is called Moving Forward. So while I was on the course as a volunteer, I saw that these women were just so broken. Some of them, I was never like that in the first place, but these women were so broken. And we was looking at a chart, and the chart was mapping where you might be in your journey. And I think it's actually a grief chart that they've adapted towards cancer. I can't even remember now. And they were saying, like, where are you on the chart? Map where you are. It was talking to the women about this. And me there as a volunteer, I was mapping where I was. And I was looking at this chart, and I was like, I was like, I'm not even on this chart anymore. I'm not upset. I'm not angry. I'm not in denial. I don't think about it every day. None of those things anymore. So when they came to ask me, I was like, do you know what? I've come to such a big realization here today. I'm not even on this chart anymore. And the facilitator was like, yes, you've moved forward. I was like, yes. I moved forward. So now I'm at the point where I don't think about it every day. And actually, once upon a time, I didn't know if I'd ever get to this point. I don't think about it every day. It isn't one of the first, like if I have a little pain or something, my first thought isn't, oh, it's cancer. I, it, those things are just not there anymore. I don't know if you know of this cartoon thing where they've got all these little people, they're all grey, and then there's one person in red, and they're like clip arts or something on Word. And I used to feel like that red person because I'm walking around with this gene, and at any time I could have had another cancer. It could have happened at any time, and I was just different because my cells react differently to everyone else's or the normal person's cells. And I felt like that red person walking around for a while, and I was very aware of it. And I used to see all the cancer adverts on TV, you'd hear them. And now I can even hear somebody telling me about their friend having a diagnosis, and I don't even connect it to me, or it doesn't trigger me. I don't feel like that anymore. I really do feel like I've moved on. And having that last surgery, oh, it was just great. It's just freed me completely. Cancer's definitely in my past. It's shaped me, of course it has. It's changed the way I look at life. I'm a different person, but for the good, I'm a different person. But it's in the past, I feel like now. It's not a thing anymore, really. And I don't feel like, oh, cancer, if I had it again, it's the worst thing that's going to happen again. I don't feel like that anymore. If it happens again, which I doubt it will, but if it did, then I'll deal with it. I'll probably be even more irritated. But it is what it is, There's life after cancer, and I'm doing better. I've come out the other side better than I went in. So
There's life after cancer. And
of course.
And honestly, to be perfectly honest, it sounds like for you, there's life during cancer.
I was just about to say that. Yeah. I had some therapy during cancer, and I couldn't believe that I told the therapist. One of the reasons that I was frustrated was that I didn't believe that there was life during cancer. And I was like, oh, did I just say that? That's weird. Because I was having the best time of my life at that point. I was out. I was living it up. I was having a great time. Didn't have to go to work. I was just having fun every day. And I was so taken back that I'd actually said that, and that I did to some degree believe that. But when I was looking at my life, I was like, oh, it's not actually true. That's just a story. That's a lie. It's not true. So, yeah. I'm not saying that if I had to live life again, I'd say, yeah, give me cancer. But I am so grateful for what I've learned about life, about what's important, about just being able to come out the other side different, completely different. And in fact, at first I didn't realise the impact that it had on me, even the first time round, until you, Nicole, was talking to me about cancer survivors and the way they look at things, and was talking about taking risks and being driving forces of things. I just thought this was normal until I started looking at the people around me, and I realised, oh, maybe it's not then. But
that's one thing that I do want to bring into the conversation even more, and John mentioned it as well. Like, you as a person, you're a very, very strong person, and so you brought that to the experience of having cancer. You handled it in a very Amanda way, and very, you handled it with your strengths in the front, and not feeling like I've got to pull from strength from somewhere. No, the strengths are right there. This is how we're going to handle it. And that means the people on your team needed to handle it a certain way. You were very careful with who you spoke to. All of it was very Amanda. And I think that we're going to bring ourselves to the experience. And so if you're the type of person that handles things in a way that, where anxiety builds, or you're very intentional. You were very intentional about you were exposed to, et cetera, just to keep that positivity going. I think that all needs to be considered. Um, when you deal with something like this, if you have to go and find strength and pull strength from somewhere, that's an additional challenge. And I've watched John go through his own health struggles, and he handled his health struggles in a very John way. And so there's a lot of positivity, there's a lot of, just being, you're going to make it through whatever is happening. I think we have to recognize that we're going to bring ourselves to this experience. And I won't say luckily for you, but I'm just excited that you were able to deal with this challenging time and come out of it on the other side in a way that's so inspirational to me. Like, it was very, very inspirational how you handled it. And not
Thank you.
saying that everyone's going to be able to do
No.
that, for sure. Like, I'm not. But understand that, like, leading with your strengths was a real benefit for you.
Yeah. When you say that I was intentional, when it was happening, I don't know that I was being intentional. I don't know. It wasn't like, I don't know that maybe I did. I don't know. But I know that not the way I handled it is not the way everybody would handle it, and it's not right for everybody. Some people do need things to be differently, but I just did what I needed to do for it to be okay for me. So yeah, in an Amanda way, definitely.
Not just one time, but 2 times, and you have, like I say, you just has been an inspiration for a very long time, and I'm just proud to know you, be a part of your family, and just be able to be inspired by your continuous growth through all of
Oh,
it.
thank you guys.
No, it's
Gonna make me cry.
it comes from a real place, Amanda. It really does. And how you encouraged other people during it. You educated a lot of us in the family about it, and that's huge. Like, for our ancestry,
Yeah.
that's huge. But at the same time, not only were you encouraging during, but after, now volunteering and the other things that you're doing to promote how people go through their treatment and the support, because that was one thing that you found was lacking, the support, whether it be from the medical side or family support or whatever. You have been very outspoken about that as well.
Yeah. I felt like, sorry, I just felt like it was really important to me to go back and be able to offer other women what I didn't have access to the first time round. If the first time round, if I'd have seen other women dealing with things differently, it may have changed the way I dealt with things. But by the time I got to the second time around, I knew there's no way I'm going to go back and deal with it like that again. Not that I dealt with it terribly. I could have just done better. And I didn't have to take what the doctors said. I didn't have to take that. I could take it and make it my own and make it fit me. So to be able to let other women know that, you hear them talk about getting back to normal and things like that, but there isn't a normal anymore. That you're not that person. You can't go back to that. So when you hear the doctor say that, they're saying this, I don't know, from a textbook or something. They've not lived this. What they're saying doesn't even make sense It's like, that's like, I don't know, a grape becoming a raisin, but it's okay because you can be a grape again. No, you can't. You can't. So to be able to go through that and know that actually this is an opportunity for me to recreate myself and to make my life what I want it to be, not what other people dictate it's going to be, what I want it to be. And now I've got this blank canvas of, I don't know, for example, your hair's fallen out, now it's back. You've got a blank canvas. Make yourself into what you wanted to be in the first place. If you want to change all your wardrobe, do it. If you want to now start going on the holidays, do it. Do all those things. You now have this opportunity to say, look, I've faced my own mortality. Death is real to me now. I understand this now. And now I'm going to move forward and live my life in exactly the way I want to live my life. Not by, oh no, this morning have I got another tumour? Or, oh, my arm hurts or my shoulder hurts. Come on, use what you've been given. Let's move forward. Anyway, so it was really nice to be able to have that chance to give that to other women, for them to see that, hold on a minute. Yes, it was awful, but there's a silver lining here. You can make this, not even a silver, there's a gold lining here. This is an opportunity at a new life. Don't talk about this old life. Not that person anymore. You can't go back to that. You're just not that person. Well, who do I want to be now? Where am I going now? What am I going to create for myself now? And go with it. Move forward. Be brave. Be bold. Do what you need to do.
Is that when you started thinking about living limitlessly?
Actually, I can't remember when I started that. Was that true? I forgot about that. Yeah, so I came up with this thing that I wanted to live limitlessly. I actually watched this program, and it was nothing to do with a cancer survivor. It was someone that had gone through abuse, and they wanted to face their abuser. And I was like, why do you want to do that? And so I wanted to watch it and listen to what they were saying. And he was like, I want to be free. I want to live without limits. So much of what I do has been limited because of that experience. I was like, hold on a minute. Do you know how powerful that is? So I spent, as you know, I just started having these random things that I was going to remove from my life so I didn't have to live limitless, so that I had no limits. And living limitlessly doesn't mean going out and being wild and crazy and there's no rules for me in my life and I'm just going to be... No, it didn't mean that. It just meant the smallest little things, like, right, I'm growing a relaxer out of my hair. It limits me. I've got to keep putting the umbrella up because it's raining and I can't go swimming and I don't want to get chlorine in my hair and blah, blah. Right, that's got to go. Then it could be, right, no more appointments, no more at this, I don't know, lash technician, whatever. I don't want to do that anymore. All these different things. I was like, these things don't serve me. They've got to go. They are putting limits on me. They've got to go. So I literally went through all these different things that I was doing, most random things that I was going to do for myself so I didn't have limits on me. And I think, yeah, it did come from that, the whole thing that I'd been through. I don't know, I think so. I can't even remember when I started it. I think it was in 2014, actually, I started that. And now I live like that now. It's not even a thing that I think about anymore. That's just me now.
It's part of your life.
Yeah, it's part of my life now. Even like this whole thing of trying new things. I don't even have to actively try to do new things and actively try to push myself outside of my comfort zones. I just do that. That's just normal now. And I think if I didn't have all of that happen, all the stuff that's happened, then I wouldn't be like this now. I may still be trying to live a very comfortable life. Although this is now my new comfortable, if you see what I mean. Yeah.
Oh, this was such a powerful conversation, John. Is there anything that you feel that you'd like to touch on before we say goodbye?
No, I'm just on.
I did chat my head off, sorry.
Oh, no, we're so thankful. Like, we're just so appreciative of you taking the time to have this conversation.
And I want to thank you guys as well for giving me the space to be able to do that. and the space to be able to say to other, not just other breast cancer survivors or other cancer or whatever, just anybody that is having that type of, a difficult diagnosis, that you don't have to, that doesn't have to be your story. It's not the end. And for me to be able to come and talk about it in a way that might be slightly different to the way other people may talk about it. And for being able to say to me, yes, Amanda, it is okay for you to be like that. And it is okay for you to say no and put boundaries in place and things like that, because that did help. And I had that support from you guys. So thank you for that too.
We're just honored to be in that place and to have been able to walk through this with you in any way that we could. Just even giving you just the space to say, I'm really not feeling well today. This is a really hard day.
Yeah.
Whatever. If we could be there and not be that, oh, poor Amanda, not be that.
Yeah, thanks for not doing that.
But just to be there to walk through it with you was really an honor, to be there. So, well, if there is nothing else, then I think we're in a good place. And I just want to thank you. I want to thank you, John, for co-hosting with me, and Amanda for being here and for being willing to have this conversation and to be so vulnerable. We appreciate it. So from us to you, we wish you all the best and just encourage you to be well, everybody. Bye.
The information and opinions that are expressed on this podcast are for education, information, and entertainment purposes only. The information is not intended as medical, psychiatric, or psychological advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Please consult with a personal physician or other healthcare professional for your own specific mental and/or physical healthcare concerns. No physician-patient or counselor-client relationship is created by listening to or watching this program. Do not avoid or delay seeking medical advice or attention from your healthcare provider because of something you learned about on this program.